Whispering Pines. Lila had left her favorite denim jacket at home the day everything changed. A staple of her wardrobe, it showcased an assortment of badges and pins collected from various travels, representing pieces of her soul. Her wild, wavy hair was often pulled into high pigtails, which accentuated her carefree spirit, albeit with a few rebellious strands constantly escaping. Lila was braver than I could ever claim to be. A truth evident to anyone who knew our friendship. While I was merely Lila's supporter from the sidelines, she considered me her accomplice in mischief. "Are you nervous?" she asked as we stood at the edge of the forest, twilight casting long shadows around us. A single flashlight illuminated the clearing, flickering slightly in Lila's grasp, the other hand intertwined tight with mine. "I'm not nervous," I replied, attempting to sound nonchalant. "Just realistic." "Don't be," Lila encouraged with confidence. "I've done this countless times. If we wander deep enough, we'll find the perfect spot to stargaze." "What about coyotes?" I shot back, nervousness creeping into my voice. Lila chuckled, an uplifting sound that could warm the coldest of nights. "They won't bother us if we don't bother them. Come on, let's go." Her contagious enthusiasm urged me forward into the thick trees. The most challenging aspect of the forest was how easy it was to lose one's way amidst the overgrown paths. Lila claimed she knew the woods like the back of her hand, and I trusted her implicitly. We traversed routes that seemed to reach for our feet and ducked under branches as if they were intimately bowing to Lila. Even without her jacket, she radiated an air of royalty. I stumbled over a hidden gnarled vine, and Lila turned swiftly, catching me. "Careful. It can get tricky in here. Maybe you should carry me, it would be easier." I teased, and to my surprise, Lila flashed a mischievous grin and scooped me into her arms. I squealed, and she laughed heartily. "Hang on tight." The cool night air wrapped around us, but Lila's warmth was comforting as I nestled my head against her shoulder, a tinge of giddiness engulfing me. "Your cheek is cold," she said through her laughter. "Put up with it, my fearless adventurer," I whispered, teasingly, which sent her into another fit of giggles as we moved through the dark undergrowth. Eventually, we came to a clearing where Lila gently set me down. She reached into her backpack and retrieved a blanket, which we spread beneath the vast expanse of the sky. We lay back, gazing up at the shimmering stars. "That's Orion," Lila pointed at a cluster of stars. "And over there is Cassiopeia." Our fingers interlaced, we stared into the cosmos with all the wonder of children. Just as she pointed out another constellation, we heard a rustling behind us. Lila didn't budge, pointing again. "That's one of the satellites right there." "Hey, what are a couple of girls like you doing here?" a rough voice interrupted, breaking the spell. Lila bolted upright, fiery in her defense. "Mind your own business." I stood firm beside her, ready to protect her at any moment. The man appeared disheveled, clutching a half-empty flask, and swaying like a leaf in the wind. "You're just a couple of pretty little things out here at night," he slurred, stumbling closer. "What's a pretty girl like you doing in a creepy place like this? Stay away from her." I pushed Lila gently behind me, but the man lunged forward. In the chaos, Lila screamed and my world went dark. When I came to, the scene was surreal. The man lay on the ground, neck contorted at a disturbing angle, a stone nearby glistening with crimson traces. "Look," Lila pointed weakly at the rock. "When you shoved him, he must have hit his head." "His neck," I gasped, panic surging. "What do we do?" "Shua," Lila urged, her grip tightening around my shoulders. "Stay calm. I just killed a man. What should we do?" I whispered, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. "Just shoo," she hissed, her voice a concoction of urgency and calm. "We were never here. If we leave now, they won't tie this to us." "No, Lila, we can't lie. Someone died. We need to tell the truth." I objected, yet she held my gaze steadily. "Look at me." She took a breath, her eyes searching mine. "Yes, he's dead. But he was drunk. He tripped. That's the narrative." I shifted, wrestling with my conscience, but Lila's confidence was a powerful thing. It was hard to argue. "I hate this. I can't believe we're even considering this," I whispered, feeling sick. "I love you." Lila's words lingered in the air after they escaped her lips, overwhelming in their simplicity, and they knocked the wind out of me. I don't want to risk you getting in trouble for something I didn't mean to do, I replied, choking back the twist in my stomach. She exhaled, her smile soft yet resolute. We were never here, okay? Just trust me. We were never here, I echoed reluctantly, though doubts gnawed at my insides. 2 days passed before they discovered the body. The authorities, with no leads, assumed the man had been intoxicated, lost his balance and fallen backward onto the rock. A story that felt painfully unjust. The next time I spotted Lila, she wore her denim jacket like armor, embodying the confident spirit I loved so dearly. She sat at our lunch table, chatting animatedly with our friends. Did you mean what you said? I asked cautiously when she turned my way, puzzled. What did I say? She replied innocently. You told me you loved me. Did you really mean it? Oh, that. Lila laughed, the sound echoing like a distant memory. Of course, silly. As she turned to her friends, I felt my heart crumble. She never reiterated the sentiment again. Young and naively reckless, I kept quiet, burying my truth until it became a weight too heavy, too suffocating to bear. Years down the line, Lila disappeared from my life entirely, leaving haunting memories of laughter, a light denim jacket, and the unsaid words that were lost in a world I never wanted to forget. As the years rolled on, the memory of that fateful night in the woods became a patchwork of whispered regrets and lingering questions. Lila's laugh still echoed in my mind, a sweet sound that haunted every corner of my consciousness. After her departure, my world felt changed. A smothering sense of unease replaced the carefree laughter we once shared. I found myself back in our hometown a few years later. The streets were eerily familiar, yet every face seemed like a ghost, lurking in shadows of past memories. I walked along familiar pathways. Some had been altered, new buildings now dotted the horizon, while others remained steadfast, carved in my mind with scenes of Lila by my side, her cheeky grin illuminated by the sun. One late afternoon, as dusk settled over the horizon, I wandered into Whispering Pines, the forest where our carefree adventures had unfolded. With each step, each crunching leaf beneath my boots, a flood of nostalgia engulfed me. I reached the clearing where everything had changed, the stars twinkling above me just like they did that night. The blanket we laid out was long gone, but the feelings rushed back like an uninvited guest. I sank to the ground, lost in the stillness of the night, overwhelmed by a mix of anxiety and longing. I missed Lila fiercely, a void that gnawed at me with unrelenting persistence. The chill in the air reminded me of that night and the warmth of her arms. I wrapped my own around myself, taking a deep breath, when I heard a soft rustle nearby. My heart raced, a mix of hope and fear. Was this a trick of the mind? Had my yearning conjured her ghost in the underbrush? Is that you? I called out hesitantly, my voice quavering in the stillness. Silence hung in the air for a moment too long before finally, a shadow emerged beyond the thicket. With vulnerability crawling through me, I squinted into the darkness. Lila, I whispered, half convinced it was a mirage. It was indeed her. Standing under the silver light of the moon, the same wild hair caught in gentle waves, her denim jacket heavily embroidered with patches, just as I remembered. The moment felt surreal, like a scene pulled straight from a dream. Long time no see, she said, a hint of that playful tone I'd missed washing over me. I thought I'd never see you again. My voice trembled, laced with disbelief and joy. What happened to you? Lila moved closer, the shadows wrapping around her as if hesitant to let the light through. I took a breath, searching for words. I've missed you. Me too. Her voice was softer, nearly vulnerable, unlike the fiery confidence she had always worn like armor. Things got complicated after, you know. I didn't want to face it. A weight settled between us. The unspoken truth of what transpired echoed in the air. Memories collided. A rush of adrenaline as I recalled the adrenaline-fueled fear, the confusion, and the guilt that had slowly morphed into silence. Do you regret it? I finally asked, my heart pounding in my chest. No, Lila shook her head, stepping closer to me, her eyes searching mine. I don't regret saving you, even if it came with consequences. But I hated running away from it all, from you. A heavy silence enveloped us again, laced with a mix of unspoken emotions. I watched her, the way the moonlight reflected against her features, and how her hands trembled slightly as they vector danced in front of her like swaying leaves. Gray, she called softly, her voice shaky. It has haunted me too, the memory, the choices we made. Every time I thought of coming back, I hesitated. The guilt, the fear it would all come back. What if they found out? I've carried the weight of that night too, I confessed, my voice fading as the truth spilled out. For a long time I held on to the idea of us. I wanted to tell you I loved you, but I was afraid. Afraid you'd run again or that you'd leave because of what we had done. Gray, she said, her eyes glinting as tears brimmed. If only you knew how those words have echoed in my heart. I stepped forward, letting the memories wash over me. Like sunlight filtering through the trees, sparse but warm. I want to say them now. I want to be honest with you. I want that too, Lila replied, taking a deep breath as if inhaling the courage around us. The space between us was bare, charged with everything unsaid. My heart raced as I drew in closer. Lila, I love you. I always have. I breathed, emotion flooding my chest. The confession spilled like a river rushing after a storm, cascading and powerful. And I don't care what happened back then, I just want you back. Her eyes shimmered brightly as she took my hands. I love you too, Gray. I've always loved you. I let fear dictate my choices, but I don't want it to be that way anymore. Underneath the canopy of stars we drew closer, and the aching distance that had existed between us diminished like a long-forgotten song. With the comfort of her warmth enveloping me, we stood together, two lost souls finding their way back. As we held on to each other, the lingering shadows of the past began to fade, replaced by the possibility of a brighter tomorrow. The woods around us whispered tales of renewal and courage, a testament to both the beauty and fragility of love that had weathered the storms, still burning brightly like the constellations above, guiding our way through the night. The air was thick with tentative hope as Lila and I stood together under the stars, our hands intertwined, the warmth of each other's presence slowly dispelling the cold shadows of the past. The world around us faded into a soft blur, the looming trees and quiet whispers of the night becoming mere accompaniments to the reunion of two hearts that had once been so intertwined. I can't believe you're really here, I murmured, still trying to process the gravity of the moment. After all these years, I thought I had lost you for good. I thought I had lost myself, Lila replied, her voice steady but soft. It took leaving to realize how much I needed to confront my demons, and how much I needed you. As we stood in that clearing, the weight of the unsaid hung heavily in the air. Yet it felt different now. It felt lighter. Can we get away from here? I suggested, glancing around at the darkening woods. All this, it just reminds me of that night, and I want to build new memories with you. Absolutely, Lila agreed, a spark flickering in her eyes. She started to lead the way back, but paused for a moment, looking over her shoulder. You okay? Yeah, I said, smiling despite the memories that clung to the air like fog. I mean, it's still unsettling, but I'm with you. I feel safe. As we made our way back through the tall trees, I couldn't help but sneak glances at her, drinking in her presence, how she moved with an effortless grace, the starlight playing in her hair. There was a sincerity in her gaze I hadn't seen before, a mix of vulnerability and strength that drew me in. When we finally reached the edge of the clearing, I paused, pulling her back to face me. Lila, about that night, it isn't just about the fear or the guilt. It's about us, our truth. I don't want it to remain the defining moment of our story. I want us to rewrite it together. I've been thinking the same. She nodded, the weight of her past reflected in her eyes. I want us to reclaim that night, not let it be our shameful secret. I don't want to hide anymore. We faced the worst together. We can face anything if we stand united. Her words ignited something deep within me, an echo of the resilience we had both carried in silence over the years. It allowed a path for understanding and healing, and for the first time, I felt the chains loosen. As we exited the woods, the crisp night air filled our lungs. The town felt alive, a familiar pulse coursing through it. The laughter of college students, the soft glow of streetlights, the scent of nostalgia and potential swirling around us. I picked up a part-time gig at the cafe down by the square, Lila said, glancing at me, a gleam of mischief in her eyes. They have the best pastries. You have to come by and try their lavender cookies. I'd love that, I replied, my heart fluttering. How have things been for you? How's life beyond that night? It had its ups and downs, she admitted. I traveled, found myself lost and found again. Sometimes I'd lie under the stars thinking about how we used to do that here. The memories would come flooding back, both good and bad. I tried to figure out how to live without you, but honestly it was hard. Everything felt incomplete. It felt the same for me. The weight of emotions poured out freely, bringing depth to our conversation. Every step I took felt muted, like my heart was echoing the absence of someone who used to fill my life with spark. There was always this feeling in my chest that something was missing. I just didn't know how to name it. Lila's expression softened as she listened. We walked side by side in comfortable silence for a moment, allowing our shared understanding to settle. Soon we reached the town square, where the nighttime bustle swirled around us, evoking a warmth I had long craved. "I'll show you my favorite spot," Lila announced, her excitement bubbling over as she led me towards a small park nearby, away from the lively chatter and faint music in the distance. There, under the soft glow of the nearby lamp, was a small pond, its surface shimmering under the light like a scattered diamond. We settled beside it on a weathered wooden bench, the surroundings imbued with a sense of tranquility. "Look at that," Lila whispered, her gaze drawn to the stars reflecting in the water. "It's beautiful." "It is." I smiled softly, looking at her profile illuminated by the gentle light. "Just like you." The air crackled with possibility as silence enveloped us once again. Yet this time it felt charged with unspoken words. Words that neither of us seemed ready to voice yet, even though we both knew where our hearts lay. As the night grew deeper, Lila turned to me, a mix of seriousness and playfulness in her demeanor. "So, what do you say we create some new memories? What's the wildest thing you ever imagined we'd do if we reunited?" A smile broke on my lips, the familiar spark rekindling within. "How about a road trip? We could hit the coast, visit all the little diners we used to love, and scream our favorite songs at the top of our lungs." "I'm in," Lila exclaimed, her spirit lively and contagious. "Just like old times, huh?" "Exactly," I replied, feeling a swelling sense of joy. "And this time we face everything together." As laughter erupted between us, something felt renewed. In the backdrop of shared dreams and unspoken promises, I realized we were already on our way to rewriting the narrative of our lives together, one memory at a time. That night in the park became a starting point. Not just a return to who we were, but a leap towards who we would be. With every story we shared and every laughter we exchanged, we were reclaiming the light that had dimmed during our separation, forging our journey forward hand in hand, ready to embrace whatever the future would bring. As the days turned into weeks, the thrill of our impromptu reunion transformed into a comfortable rhythm. Lila and I fell back into a routine that felt both achingly familiar and thrillingly new. Each afternoon, after fulfilling our obligations, we found ourselves sharing thoughts over coffee at the cafe where she worked, our hands occasionally brushing, a small spark igniting each time. "2 lavender cookies, please," I'd say to her as she took my order, her grin infectious. It was in those small moments, watching her at work, exuding a passion I had missed for so long, that I realized how much she had grown. The Lila I once knew was still there, playful, adventurous, but there was also a depth to her, a wisdom woven through her laughter that colored our conversations. "Okay, but you have to try my new recipe tonight," Lila proclaimed one afternoon, leaning over the table as if sharing a conspiracy. "I've been experimenting with blueberry lavender muffins. They're divine." "Sounds amazing." "I'm in," I replied, excitement bubbling in my chest. As evening rolled around, I arrived at her apartment, a cozy little place not far from the cafe, adorned with colorful art and plants that brought life to the space. The aroma of fresh blueberries wafted through the air, and I could hear the soft hum of music in the background. Lila met me at the door, her hands dusted with flour, a warm smile spreading across her face. "You're just in time. I have the batch almost ready. Need any help?" I offered, stepping inside, but she waved me off. "Nope. Just sit back and enjoy the show," she said, with an exaggerated flourish, before returning to her kitchen routine. I watched her move about the kitchen, stirring, mixing, and humming along to the music. The way she seemed alive in that moment filled me with a sense of contentment. I couldn't help but smile, appreciating the joy that radiated from her. When the muffins finally came out of the oven, their golden tops gleamed, and the aroma of baked blueberries enveloped us. Voilà! Lila exclaimed, holding a muffin aloft like a trophy. The moment of truth. Let's see if they can compete with those lavender cookies you rave about, I challenged playfully. We sank onto the couch, relaxed, muffin wrappers strewn about us as we indulged in flavors and laughter. Each bite was paired with memories, journeys we had taken as children, dreams we had stowed away during our separation. The laughter felt rejuvenating, stripping away the layers of past confusion and hurt. Remember our third-grade science project? Lila said between bites, her eyes sparkling with mischief. You had that diorama of the solar system, and I convinced you to paint Jupiter polka dot red. Everyone loved it, though. I retorted, laughing aloud. We were trendsetters. Exactly. Trendsetters in elementary projects. She grinned, her laughter infectious. But then she grew momentarily serious. Listen, I've been thinking about the past. How we left things. I paused, my heart quickening as her eyes captured mine. Yeah, me too. That night. I want to talk about it, but only if you're ready, she said softly, searching my expression for reassurance. We don't have to rush anything. I think it's important we address it, though, to heal and move on, I finally said, my voice steady. I still carry that weight, and I don't want it to linger between us. Lila nodded slowly, wrapping her arms around her knees, an earnestness enveloping her features. That night changed everything for both of us. I was scared, I felt trapped by the consequences. I didn't want to drag you down that road with me. I understand that now, I admitted, feeling the air grow heavy. But I wish we could have faced it together. I didn't want to lose you, Lila. Her gaze softened. You didn't lose me. I lost myself. It took me a long time to face that fact, to accept that running away was a choice. I ran not just from that night but from how deeply I loved you. I guess I thought I could escape both. I wanted to say those 3 little words, but I was afraid it would make everything even more complicated. I spoke carefully, measuring my words. What we went through should have brought us closer, but instead it made us question everything. That's been weighing on my mind too, she confessed. But the truth is, I never stopped loving you through it all. I just didn't know how to balance everything. A flicker of hope ignited within me, illuminating the corners of doubt. Then let's make a promise, no more hiding. Let's build on the love we have, rather than letting the past shape us. I promise, she echoed, determination in her voice. Let's redefine our story, as partners in all the chaos life throws our way. With our hearts laid bare, we took the first step toward reclaiming our narrative. The night continued, with each shared memory and vulnerability weaving a tapestry of trust that began to heal old wounds, layer by layer. The following week, Lila suggested we visit the coast, an adventure we had talked about for years but never pursued. It took only a little persuasion, and soon we were loading up her car with snacks, blankets, and a carefully chosen playlist of our favorite songs. As we drove along the winding roads, the sea air poured in through the windows, dancing with our laughter. The landscape unfurled before our eyes, each twist and turn revealing breathtaking views of cliffs cradling the crashing waves below. I sang off-key while Lila took joyful snaps for our playlist of memories. Look! She shouted excitedly, pointing towards a cluster of wildflowers blooming along the cliffs. Let's stop there. We pulled over, marveling at the colorful yellow and purple blooms swaying gently in the breeze. The beauty of that moment felt tangible, filling the spaces between us and erasing the weight of our past. We wandered along the cliff's edge, our hands brushing occasionally, our laughter mingling with the sound of waves crashing below. Eventually, we found a secluded spot overlooking the ocean, the horizon stretching endlessly before us. Can we stay here forever? Lila asked, her voice a happy whisper as she sank down onto the soft grass beside me. It feels magical. I joined her, staring out at the expanse of blue as the sun dipped lower, painting the sky with hues of purple and gold. It does. It's like a new beginning, I replied, feeling a swell of affection for her. That's all I want, Gray, Lila said, turning to me, her expression earnest yet bright. A fresh start. Together. You've got it, I said, not missing a beat. Together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over us, we leaned into one another. A new chapter unfolding. It dawned upon me then that we were no longer haunted by shadows of the past, but were instead nurtured by the love that remained, stronger than before. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed in the promise of what lay ahead. An infinite sky that stretched out before us, illuminated by the stars and filled with our endless possibilities.